Week 4 is officially in the books for the AFC North, and things are starting to shake up in the division. A lot of good, a lot of bad, and a lot of what? It was that type of week for the AFC North. So, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Starting off with the Cincinnati Bengals. So, Cincinnati, with their season on the line, go into Carolina and get the 34-24 victory over the Panthers. The Cincinnati Bengals get their first win on the season and advance to 1-3. I gotta say, this was a conflicting game. I'm not gonna lie. It was one of those games that you knew the Bengals needed, but it felt a lot closer than it needed to be. You needed to see the Bengals come out here and dominate the Panthers. We didn't see much of that. The good and the bad was displayed in this game. The good, the offense is still fine. The offense is still explosive, and the offense can still make plays. Joe Burrow is still Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase is still Jamar Chase, and you know what to expect from the Bengals offense. In terms of performances here, Joe Burrow against the Panthers, he was 22 of 31. For 232 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a passer rating of 100, and a QBR of 88. Jamar Chase, 3 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. His longest was that 63-yard catch and run for a touchdown where he, spun. He went video game mode. He broke, 2 tackles, spun, and then just kept going. Complete video game mode for Jamar Chase. T. Higgins also played well. 6 catches, 60 yards for him. The Bengals getting some good production from the running game. Chase Brown with 80 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. Overall, the Bengals finished off with 141 yards rushing. So they did do a relatively good job offensively against the Carolina Panthers. The bad in this situation has to deal with their defense. Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Bengals defense has gotten worse every year since 2021. Since the Super Bowl year, the defense has slowly gotten worse, and it is a concern. Now, the defense didn't play as poorly as they did last week against the Commanders, but they still did play relatively poorly. And if it wasn't for the offensive heroics in this game, they probably would have lost this one too. Giving up 24 points to the Panthers isn't great. Now, of course, we know the Panthers, they had gotten their first victory last week. They benched Bryce Young. They brought in Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton was operating this offense at a high level last week. They destroyed the Raiders. I got you. But this is a Cincinnati Bengals team that's supposed to be in contention. They're trying to get back on track. There should be no reason why the Carolina Panthers are keeping up with them in a must-win type of situation. Andy Dalton, in this game, 25 of 40, 220 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, passer rating of 83, QBR of 61. Deontay Johnson was their best receiver with 7 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. Leggett also contributed with 6 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, with 18 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown. The Panthers were actually able to run the ball for 155 yards on that Cincinnati defense. So Cincinnati's still struggling with stopping the run, as we saw last week when they took on the Commanders. And, I didn't like what I saw defensively from Cincinnati. I still have concerns with that. If you were watching the game, at times, we were watching the Panthers go toe-to-toe with the Bengals. The Bengals would score a touchdown, and then the Panthers would respond with a touchdown. And it was going back and forth for a while. There were moments where the Panthers had a chance to potentially make this game close again once Cincinnati got that double-digit lead. But the Panthers weren't able to finish things off. I still do not trust this Bengals team because I just don't like what I'm seeing defensively. However, I do trust in Jamar Chase, I do trust in Joe Burrow, and I trust in what their offense can be. So because of that, I still feel like Cincinnati has a chance to turn this around. And it all starts with getting a win here, which is what they got. This game feels somewhat similar to what we saw last week with the Ravens when they went up against the Cowboys. It felt like a win that shouldn't have been that close. You should have dominated throughout the entire game and keep on dominating. With the Ravens, they blew a huge lead. With the Bengals, they were going toe-to-toe with the Panthers. So that was problematic. But at the end of the day, it's all about getting one. And the Bengals got one. Now they have to look to build from here. Next week, they're going to take on the Baltimore Ravens. And we'll see what happens there. Next up to talk about The Pittsburgh Steelers. So, the Steelers have been riding high so far in the season. They were 3-0 heading into this matchup against the Colts in Indianapolis. With the 3-0 record, you expect them to find a way to get the job done and advance to 4-0 based on how they were playing. Well, this is where we have to talk about the good and the bad as well. The bad today, no question, the defense. I don't know what this defense was doing out there today for the Steelers. I don't know what they were doing. I'm so confused as to what the Steelers defense was doing out there. They couldn't make a stop. So Anthony Richardson early on in this game, he scores an offensive touchdown. He just goes down the field, scores a touchdown, and the Steelers defense is not making no stops. Offense for the Steelers struggling early on with Justin Fields. It is to be expected. It's been like that all season, so it's not really a surprise. Their defense has been keeping them in the game. And like I've said about the Steelers, when they play competent football, they win. But also, they win games purely because of their defense. Their defense is the heart and soul of this football team. If the defense does not play well, chances are they're going to lose that football game. And that was a situation they faced early on today when they were down. So Anthony Richardson scores a touchdown. He was playing well to start off with. But unfortunately, he gets knocked out of the game. He suffers a hip injury. Well, he initially suffered one injury, then came out, then came back in, and then suffered that hip injury. I don't know what the Colts are doing. I'm really scared for Anthony Richardson. It feels like they're going to get this man seriously hurt. I don't like what the Colts are doing right now. He was already knocked out of the season last year in his rookie year. I don't want him to suffer another season-ending injury. I don't know what to do with this. Just the Colts are scaring me with this Anthony Richardson situation. It feels like they're going to ruin him. I'm very scared for this guy. But yeah, he gets knocked out the game. So now it's up to the backup for the Colts to come in and try to see what he can do. Luckily for the Colts, they have the best backup in football. Good old Joe Flacco. Still slinging the ball, even as old as he is. What is he, 38 now, 39? He might be close to 40. In this late stage of his career where most would say he should be retired, he's still slinging the football. And man, when he stepped foot in that field, the Steelers defense just lost themselves. I do not know what was happening with the defense today, but they just couldn't make stops. But most importantly, they couldn't get to Flacco. Flacco was standing in the pocket and just carving up this Steelers defense. The defense that everyone said was the best in football, Flacco was carving them up. He was unfazed. He was just standing in the pocket and just delivering the ball. Delivering here, delivering there, delivering it downfield, checking the ball down here. And the Steelers defense didn't know how to respond. They couldn't generate pressure. They couldn't get to Flacco. He was getting the ball out too quickly. And even when they would try to get to him, he was still getting the ball out. They could not stop Joe Flacco. And because the Steelers offense wasn't doing anything early on in the game, all of a sudden, it became a 17-3 game. Excuse me. So 17-3 against a Colts team that's being led by Joe Flacco now. And you're the Steelers, who has an offense that's not really generating a lot of points. Being down 17-3 with the Steelers offense basically feels like the game's over. But the Steelers offense does have a chance to at least earn their keep, prove themselves, and actually carry the load today. Because the Steelers defense has been carrying all season. It's time for the offense to step up. When the defense is not playing well, the offense has to step up. Justin Fields, it's your time to step up. And I will say this, Justin Fields did have himself a performance today. Justin Fields, 22 of 34, 312 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, passer rating of 104, QBR of 60, 10 carries as well for 55 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 total touchdowns. He did not throw a pick. However, he did fumble the football and turn it over. So that was bad. But when they needed him to show up in the second half, he finally did something. So, down 17-3, at some point, offense got to show up. Justin Fields and the offense finally wakes up in the second half. In that third quarter, they score an offensive touchdown. They make it 17-10. How does the defense respond heading into the fourth quarter? It's a 1-score game now. How does the defense respond? They let Joe Flacco go down the field and score another touchdown. All of a sudden, it's 24-10. Oh boy, here we go. So now, Steelers offense has to come out there again. An offense that has struggled to put up points on the board. What does Justin Fields do? He takes them right back down the field and they score another touchdown. 24-17. You need your defense to make a stop, guys. Steelers defense, wake up. The offense is now starting to help you out. Give them a chance. What does the Steelers defense do? They give up 3 points. 27-17. Time is starting to wind down in the fourth quarter. They're going to have to get points quickly. What does Justin Fields do? He takes the offense right back down the field, and they score another touchdown. 27-24. 3-point game. All you need is one opportunity here. The Steelers defense wakes up. They make a stop. They get the ball away from Joe Flacco and the Colts. 3-point game. Now it's time for the game-winning drive. Everything was set for the Steelers to either tie it and send it to overtime or win with a game-winning touchdown. What ends up happening? The offensive line, which has been a problem for the Steelers, hurts them in the worst possible way. So Justin Fields was making some type of adjustment. I don't know what he was doing. He was taking a look at the defense or making some type of adjustment. But again, he wasn't calling for the football. He was making an adjustment. For some reason, the center snapped the ball. Ball bounces off of Justin Fields. It's a fumble. He's got to go pick it up and recover it. He gets dropped down there, and now it's a huge loss of yardage. On a game-winning drive now. Second down, they get some yardage back. Third down, they get nothing. Fourth down, game on the line, incomplete, and that ends the game for the Steelers, and they will suffer their first loss. This was a poor performance by the defense, man. You got to really hold them accountable. Justin Fields wasn't perfect, especially when he fumbled the ball, and again, in the first half, he gave you 3 points. That's just unacceptable. But he battled back in the second half and gave y'all a chance to win. That was the first time the Steelers offense was actually doing something consistently in terms of putting points on the board. The fact that the defense played that poorly and the fact that the team was sloppy, just penalties at times, the offensive line not being on the right page with Justin Fields turning the ball over, the defense not being able to make a stop in key situations, Tomlin being questionable with some of his decision makings. It was just a whole array of mess for the Steelers. That's not what you want to see from the Steelers if you're a fan of that team. That was just poor all around. That was a bad loss. It's a tough loss, but it's a bad loss because that's not the defense you're used to seeing. So it's a tough one, but Steelers, they got to deal with it. They dropped to 3-1, first loss of the season, but they're not tripping. You take the loss on the chin, you move on to next week. And they got to move on quickly because next week they play Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. So they got to be ready for that. Next up is the Cleveland Browns. We talked about the good, we talked about the bad. This really is a mixture of all three because the Cleveland Browns get the what? They get the what in this scenario. I don't know what happened. I took a look at this game. I went back and rewatched it. And for the life of me, I don't even know what the Browns are doing at this point. I'm so confused. There's so many reasons they lost this game. You can take a look at the offensive line at times. You can take a look at the play calling. You can look at Stefanski. You can look at Deshaun Watson. In some cases, though, I don't think he was a primary reason. You can look at the defense. The defense was literally playing well to start off the game. Then in the middle of the game, playing terrible. And then in the end of the game, they were playing well. And it just wasn't enough. So let's get into this craziness. Browns start off the game playing well. They go up 10 early on in this game. They're taking on a Raiders team that's missing both Devontae Adams and Max Crosby. Gardner Minshew doesn't have his number one receiver, and the defense is missing their leader. You would assume Cleveland would be able to find a way to take advantage of this, right? Well, they started off the game taking advantage of it. Got to a very early 10-0 lead against this Raiders team. It looked like Cleveland could end up walking away with this early on. Maybe they get a huge lead, hold on to it with their defense, and they'll be just fine. They then proceed to give up 10 unanswered points to go into halftime. And now it's a 10-10 game. Okay, defense started letting up in the second quarter. Offense wasn't delivering. It's cool. Let's get it together in the second half and do well. They proceeded to give up another 10 unanswered points in the third quarter. So after going up 10-0, the Browns gave up 20 unanswered points. And nobody understands what happened. The defense can't make stops. The defense is getting gushed on the ground. In this game today, Gardner Minshew, 14 of 24, 130 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, passer rating of 73, QBR 40. He's not the primary reason the Raiders won. You got to look more towards the fact that they were running the ball really well against them. 152 total yards rushing. 152 total yards rushing given up by this Browns defense. They're one of the best at stopping the run. They couldn't stop the run today. They could not stop the run today. Running game was working. They were being put in good positions, and they were putting up points on the board. Man, it was a tough one for Cleveland because defensively they started off the game well, and then in the second and third quarter they just lost it. But they regained themselves in the fourth quarter. In fact, they regained themselves in the fourth quarter so much that they ended up getting a fumble 6. They forced the ball out of Minshew's hands, picked it up, scooped it, scored. And all of a sudden it was a 4-point game in the fourth quarter. You had an opportunity. You had an opportunity to win this game. When you got the ball late in this game, down 4. They marched down the field, got into the red zone, and then the offense just stalled for Cleveland. I don't know what happened there, man. It just stalled. It just stalled. And with the game on the line, 4th down, they're not even able to get the ball out. Deshaun Watson has the ball. He's looking. Pressure's coming. He's looking. He doesn't even get a throw off. He gets sacked right there. That's the game for Cleveland. They lose 20-16. They fall to 1-3. There were so many reasons they lost this game, but there was also some what moments. The biggest what moment of the game happened due to a penalty. So to give some context here, Deshaun Watson was getting blamed for this loss, which I don't think he was the primary reason they lost. Deshaun Watson on the day, 24-32, 176 yards passing, a touchdown, an interception, passer rating of 84.9, QBR of 36. They had 92 total yards rushing, Watson 8 carries for 32, and Jerome Ford 10 carries for 58 yards. When you look at the receiving core, Jerry Jeudy set 6 catches, 72 yards, and Amari Cooper 4 catches for 35 yards. Amari Cooper's been having a tough go-around because he's been dropping passes, a lot of passes to start off the season, which is not a good look. But here's where the what comes in. And this is some of the weird aspects that happened in this game. Deshaun Watson hit Amari Cooper, who was wide open down the field, and Amari Cooper took it to the house for an 80-yard touchdown. That touchdown would be wiped away by a holding call on the offensive line. I went back and looked at that. I'm not so sure that's a holding call. The more I look at it, the less I'm convinced it's a holding call. Maybe I'm not seeing a certain aspect or a certain angle, but from what I saw, I don't think that was enough to be called a hold. So essentially, they lose out on a touchdown because of a penalty that didn't really look like a penalty. And that was a big moment. That was a big play. That would have helped out both Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper. That was taken away by penalties. That's how this game was. The weirdness of it, the what? The fact that the defense was playing well in the first quarter and then disappeared in the second and third quarter only to show up in the fourth quarter. The fact that the offense put up 10 points in the first quarter and then went crickets for the rest of the game. It's just so conflicting how the Browns lost this game. They're going up against the Raiders team with no Devontae Adams and no Max Crosby. They're missing 2 of their best players, and they're not able to capitalize on that. 16 points of offense. I don't know what to make of Cleveland right now. 1-3, things are looking bad, and everybody's pointing the finger at somebody. What are they pointing it at Watson? What are they pointing at Stefanski? What are they pointing at the defense? What are they pointing at Amari Cooper and his drops? What are they pointing at the offensive line? I don't know. It's just a mess right now in Cleveland. It is what it is. They dropped to 1-3, man. They dropped to 1-3. And the season right now, it's waiting for them. It's waiting for them. Being at 1-3, you start to feel it. Now, they got to get prepared and ready because they're coming down to the DMV, man. They got to go take on the Commanders. They're going to take on the Commanders. And the Commanders right now are rolling. If you're looking at the Commanders' offense right now, they're running the ball well. They're throwing the ball well. Jaden Daniels is playing fantastic football, and the offense right now is not even punting, man. They look unstoppable. They continue to score at a high level. So if this Browns team is not able to get it together, they could potentially be 1-4 after next week, which would really end their season. So It's very tough in Cleveland right now. They don't exactly know what to do, but they're gonna have to get over this tough loss and try to get back into the winning column next week. Get to 2-3 and see if you can fight to get to 500 if you're Cleveland. But that's pretty much it for them. Last but not least, the Ravens. Now, I will not spend that much time talking about the Ravens because I've already done the whole recap about the Ravens and the Bills Sunday Night Football game. All I'll say is the Ravens came out here and completely dominated. Nothing but good for them. There was some bad moments here and there, but no game's perfect. But this was nothing but good Ravens football. Offensively, they kick off the game with an 87-yard touchdown by Derrick Henry. They scored touchdowns on their first 3 offensive drives. Touchdown run by Derrick Henry, touchdown catch by Derrick Henry, touchdown catch by Justice Hill. The defense shuts down Josh Allen. They couldn't get anything going consistently downfield. They only scored 10 points on offense. The defense was making sure they got to Josh Allen. They stripped him and caused a fumble to happen. They did everything right. They constantly pressured him. They got him on the ground. Cal Van Noy has been one of the best, if not the best, pass rusher in football over the last 3 weeks. He has 6 sacks in 3 weeks. He's been a monster. Adafe always playing well. The secondary played well. Stevens played well. Humphrey played well. The rookie Nate Wiggins played well, though he needs to get his hands. He dropped 2 interceptions. Get your hands right, rookie. The safeties played well. Hamilton looked great. Marcus Williams, Eddie Jackson, everybody was looking great. Linebackers playing great, both Simpson and Roquan. The front 7 was doing their job. They stopped the run. Cooks couldn't really get anything going, so the Bills ended up becoming one-dimensional. The Ravens did everything we needed to see them do. This is how the Ravens should be playing football. We expect this from the Ravens defense. This is how they need to play. This is how they were playing last year, which is why they were one of the best defenses in football. Now, maybe it took some time, but hey, they look great. And if they can keep that up, they're going to be a serious, dangerous foe come January. Offensively, they're starting to figure it out with Derrick Henry. They finally figured out how to properly utilize Derrick Henry, and they're utilizing him the right way. That is what they need to do. They need to keep on using Derrick Henry the exact way they're using him right now. Lamar Jackson played well. Derrick Henry played well. The whole team offensively played well. There's still some things they need to work on in order to evolve this offense because I feel like you can start utilizing the play action passing when you're running 12 personnel and you're in that I formation with Derrick Henry. I think you can get some play action passing there, but we'll talk about that at a different time. Either way, Ravens dominated this matchup here against the Bills. They go to 2-2. They're now back to 500 after that 0-2 start. They fought back to win 2 straight, and now they have a date with the Cincinnati Bengals. So next week, things really going to spice up in the AFC North because when the Ravens and the Bengals go at it, the winner of that, it's going to be very interesting. If the Ravens drop to 2-3 and Cincinnati gets to 2-3, now, both teams are in the exact same place to try to fight to get back in this division and see if they can take it from the Steelers, who have the lead right now. If the Ravens win it, they go to 3-2. Cincinnati goes to 1-4, and that could be their season. And the interesting part is, Steelers play Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys. If the Ravens beat the Bengals and the Steelers lose to the Cowboys, then the Ravens will be 3-2, and they'll take first place in the AFC North. So, a lot could shake up this upcoming week in the AFC North, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, that is all I've got. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay safe, and peace out.